Hi, welcome back to Random Romania. Sorry, Christy isn't here to do the proper production of this video today, so I've done it myself. Hence, Greg here is interviewing Luke. Luke, you might remember from this video that was uploaded over 2 years ago now, and this is an update on where he's at. He's made a lot of progress since he's been here, and well, I'll let you listen to the video. Also, just wanted to point out that this is a real channel with real information. We use AI a little bit in production and a little bit for transcription, but there's no AI content on here, and we intend to keep it that way. Thanks very much for watching. If you want to contact me, I reply to everybody that has something positive and constructive to say. So just if you want to contact me for some reason, just leave a message in the comments and I'll give you my email address. Thanks, and enjoy the video, and bye for now. We're recording, so just give us an update from where we left off.
Where I left off. So it's been about 2, maybe nearly 3 years since we last touched base. You were here, and I mean, the land was of vast difference. It was overgrown. We had a very old, I think, 1920s typical Romanian house. Since then, we've gone through planning permission. We've decided to demolish the original house and completely start from scratch on a blank canvas. That led us into what you're sitting in today, which hopefully will be eventually my office. So we've gone for a whole architectural plan of I would say a typical Western house, with definitely Eastern European feel. We've got 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, downstairs, private living, office, open plan kitchen, utility and cellar. I mean, the last 3 years has been, I would say for me, it's just flashed in a blink. I think the project itself, you can look back and say, oh, it was 3 years ago, but actually in what we've done in terms of how to get here today and putting shovels in the ground and the work that you have to do, it's been a bit of a longer than I expected, but we're here, and I think we're on the final stretch. The house has got its first layer of plastering. It's got electrics in, it's got plumbing in. Next will be the underfloor heating, and then finishing off the final layer of plastering. So we're on the final hurdle. I would like to think our plan was already to get in December 2026. If that doesn't happen, I think latest Easter next year in 2027.
So do you find that over the winter the work stopped?
Actually, in the winter, you have to be very smart about it, right? So the plan was we put shovels in the ground last August, get the structure up and get it watertight. Yeah. We got it watertight. Thankfully, we got there in time. We got the windows in. That allowed for the builders to work inside. Because no builders want to work in the winter, right? But then you can negotiate really good terms of rates with them. Yeah. And that's when they started doing the electric, started doing the plumbing, and where we are today. And still right now, you can see the weather outside is very British. Today it's raining.
First one of the year, really, isn't
First one of the year, I know. But these types of weathers, when, do they have the option to be building houses on the outside or actually doing work inside?
Yeah, you want to work inside.
So the plan was always winter to get everything. Yeah. So we haven't really stopped. We've slowed down a little bit, just because of availability, funds, etc. So we've had to really project manage it. But yeah, so far so good. Since August, we've always had some constant work going.
You've done a really good progress in 7 months, effectively. If you think back in the UK, building a new house,
Yeah, and you've got to remember, in the UK, most of it is timber frames these days. Yeah. So you'd like to think they can pop these up in a good time. But everything here is cement. I mean, in terms of the foundation, it goes down 3 meters plus because you have to. Because when they did all of the surveillance and feasibility studies, etc. Romania still is an earthquake risk, so you have to put that in. So it's all cement. So in terms of how quick, we had about 7-8 builders on it. Actually, that's a good point, just touching base on that. Builders in Romania are, and especially very good ones, are very hard to find. Yeah. The really good ones I've left to the west.
I was going to say they're all in England or...
Germany. I think most of them are in Germany now because of Brexit and the EU. But due diligence on that was intense.
Okay,
like,
so what did that look like?
Well, didn't look like in terms of a full project management and scope and doing a procurement case or anything like that, but it was definitely sitting with people and getting recommendations from family and friends. But the individual that we picked, and I would love to recommend him to other people because he is fantastic. I don't know his surname, but we call him Vasily and his team. He was actually one of the only guys when he presented his portfolio, you could actually see him in his portfolio working, right? Yeah. There wasn't these like random 3D, images of these actual pads. It's like, show me what you've actually built. So that was one of the biggest sort of deciding factors, and he came highly recommended from a close family member.
Okay. That's the important thing, because you want to be able, like you say, is see what they've done before that's real, and you can see, that they're not just, because we in the previous video we were talking about, like, we were trying to find a polytunnel. I know it's not very different to building a house, but a lot of the suppliers that we found online is all just AI, or they've just taken a CAD file or something from somewhere else and said, oh, this is what I build, but actually finding physical evidence of what they've done is quite hard.
So one of the biggest scams right now in Romania, I don't know, you know about, you might be aware, but on Facebook these days you can see these turnkey houses and they say, oh, we can build your house with 30,000 completely. That's just a bunch of guys who are using AI 3D images, trying their luck. You give them money, and unfortunately I do know some of cases there where over 50% of them never get built.
Right. Okay.
So that's something for people to be aware, because even when we were doing it, you're looking at materials, looking at houses online, so the algorithms naturally pop up, right? And you're looking and going, what are we doing? We're spending hundreds of thousands on this, our dream home, when we can get this, turnkey houses for 50k. But later, as more and more research that we did, these were actually one of the highest scams in the construction industry right now in Romania. So my biggest advice to people is do your due diligence regardless, even if they are a friend of a friend of a friend. Ask for portfolios, ask for rates. It's fine to pay people in cash, but what sort of guarantees are you going to get with it?
About business, maybe what you've done since we.
I think so. So life in Romania for me is kind of like, I'm not looking back. I'm not going back to the UK. And I say that because for me the opportunities has been tremendous. I think when we first spoke, I had just got myself into the gaming industry for a company which progressed pretty high in. Since then, I'm taking a back seat. I can't talk too much on what I'm doing next, but what I can tell you is over the last sort of 10 to 12 years, I've worked in multiple different industries, from sports to defence to automotive, education, entertainment. And what we're doing now is my wife and I have always invested, and we're looking to take our own sort of private investments public. And we're looking to give back and invest into certain industries, which hopefully we can announce in a few months' time. But just high level, typically they're going to be the tech industry.
Any specific sectors in tech, or just
software? AI is a buzzword right now. You need to be very careful of it. Everybody's doing AI. The reality is you can invest in AI today, and most of those companies in 5 years' time won't exist. And I'll tell you why, because most of the biggest corporations will buy them just to shut them down.
Exactly.
But it will be there. I mean, it's high risk, high reward. Actually, one of my closest friends said to me, not explicitly on AI, but in a similar industry, when I asked him for sort of returns of investments on a certain deal, he said to me, Luke, honestly, go to Vegas, put it all on red, and you'll get a free drink with that. So the industry right now, especially in gaming and in tech, they're two very different. Gaming is on the downward spiral because it blew up during COVID. Everybody was working from home. Tech, on the other instance, everybody's AI. If it hasn't got AI in it, what's the point, right? So it leads me on to the other one. We'll be looking at sort of investments into sort of gaming, entertainment, IP. Then something what we call experiences. So we've got some very experienced people. Sorry for the cheesy pun there, but we do have some very experienced people who know about live events, tourism, culture, and particularly around in Eastern Europe. What we've discovered is that actually when you put on an event, there's not an experience with it, especially in Romania. So one example I can give you is when you go to a football match in the UK, it's a whole big build-up. People go there 2-3 hours before. There's entertainment.
Go to the village.
Village, exactly.
Kind of
right.
thing, yeah.
When you come here, you're lucky to get popcorn. Right.
Okay.
So, and that's at the National Stadium. So it's how we deliver more experiences, especially in this Eastern Europe, looking at Romania as an anchor.
Yeah.
And real estate, as we're typically in my residence here, but we have, some very interesting real estate projects, what we're very close to investing in, which are among sort of not residential as such, but more commercial use.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's, I can't say too much about it because of certain situations, but what I can tell you is we are looking to invest more into the future, particularly into Romania, but also into the EU. And then thirdly, globally. So if we have an investment where it's like this is in the US or this is in the EU, we're always going to pick the one in the EU first.
But I assume you're also looking at in terms of like scalability as well. So if you do something in Romania, can it also be exported?
You got it spot on. I think one of our biggest, I'd say, plans is, or thesis as such is, if a business can scale beyond one market, it becomes more attractable.
Exactly.
It also needs to be fixing a problem. And I think that's very cliche in business. Everybody says, it needs to fix a problem. No, it needs to fix a problem. It's not just somebody here.
It's a real problem as well.
A real problem as well. I mean, I've had pictures over the last sort of couple of weeks of people, and it's just like, what are you trying to fix?
Yeah.
And the reality is they're trying to fix their bank account.
Exactly. Yeah.
For short-term wins. So if you're out there and you're generally trying to fix a problem, you're probably going to get more success, or likelihood you're going to get more success.
Yeah, absolutely.
More community-driven businesses as well. I think it's very clear in the last few years that you can see a lot more of these like podcasts and interviews, and that people are actually buying because of people. And I know that's an old school and it's been in ancient times and it's always been the case, but we've been in a dystopian world for the last 10 years in business, especially in the corporate world. But that's coming back round after COVID, and people are generally out there doing business with people. Even in sort of events, right? Everybody's like, events are going to crash, conferences are going to crash. Actually, all the conferences that I've been to in the last 3 to 5 years have actually been on the up. So it's more important, and I go back to my biggest saying, the reason that I've done this is that my biggest net worth is my network. I only do business with people that I get to know, I trust, we build that up. Hey, let's see if there's a business here.
Some of the stuff you were talking about business and these businesses with that are built that are like solutions looking for a problem. We should definitely do a conversation on video just about all that stuff.
100%. And
I think that would be a really good one.
Yeah,
you and me, because a lot of the stuff you're saying, I want to keep focused on this, and because my sound also won't work very well on this video, as I'm sure the people listening will hear. There's a lot of stuff we should go over. Just do an interview, or just you and me have a conversation about fundraising, network. Because the stuff you're saying about network is exactly where I'm at now. I don't want to be dealing with anybody that I don't know and trust and have. Because it's just so many time wasters and idiots.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I mean, idiots, you said it better than me, but I think, our circle has been built for trust. It's a very, I've got this document where I send to very close people who want to do business with me, and it can come across a bit cliche, but I think the count on there, my friend said, you've got the word trust in your 100-page document over 300 times.
The reason why it's so important is you cannot trust anything now at all.
Yeah, well, AI as well. Look at images online.
You can't trust anything, so AI is just going to drive this world where trust will become everything.
Yeah.
It's sorting out the wheat from the chaff, isn't it? It's like, because again, you talk about AI, and we've said on previous videos about social media, and you're just getting bombarded with all these AI-produced videos, and they're complete rubbish. They're either completely fake.
It's not just that, it's the new generations of kids. I was at an event the other day, it was held at Google. Very lucky to be asked to come there as a guest. There was a business school going on, so seeing the next individuals. And the CEO of Google Romania, great woman. She was speaking there, and very interesting. And she said that she was at a school recently, and she was speaking to these kids about what do you think about AI, and actually Google are doing a really good thing about AI in terms of being more ethical on certain things, giving parents control of certain things. By the way, I'm not a representative of Google, I'm not selling anything. But it was an interesting talk. But one of the feedback that she got from the kids was when she asked the question, what's your biggest fear with AI? And the kids responded and said, we're scared that AI are going to take our jobs. At which the Google CEO responded and said, jobs? What jobs? You don't have any jobs yet.
Yeah.
And I think the messaging is very clear, is that, there's been lots of, you look at even, generational changes, the internet came in, we switched to mobile phones, smartphones, etc. But one thing that never gets replaced is us. And if we can adapt to it and use it in a manner where it's fixing a problem, that it's a solution, instead of replacing, then I think we'll be fine. I think kids will be much more advanced than we are, for sure.
Yeah. I think they will, but also I think in a way they won't, because the three of us in this room, we remember a time before the internet.
Yeah.
And
I'm trying to look young here.
And sitting in the pub and just be like having a chat and trying to remember something. You're like, you actually had to remember it rather than pull up your phone and check.
I got to butt in here because I'm trying to keep quiet because the sound for me will be crap. But the something I noticed both my kids doing, particularly my elder daughter, is relating everything in the world to computer games, because they played so many games and they're into gaming and whatever. And I found it really weird to start with, and then after a while, of course they do, because
that's their reference, isn't it?
It's their point of reference.
Yeah.
Lots of parents don't understand that, and they get really scared by it. But actually, you can easily turn that into something positive.
Yeah. I think that's the main thing about things. If we can adapt. I read something the other day. My daughter's in the generation of AI. If you're born in 2025 upwards, that's the AI generation. But that's not because my daughter's going to be replaced in 20 years' time. No, we're going to still need my daughter in the economy. It's just they're going to be able to use those tools in a much more different, effective way.
I completely agree. I think AI will never be original. AI will, because it's if you understand, it's trained on a set of data that's on the internet. It will only be able to pull stuff off the internet, do a certain level of decision making or extrapolation and give you an answer, but it will never be able to create something completely original and new because it's limited to the data that it's trained on. So where humans is like that level above it, where we can start doing the more innovative, creative thinking, and I think that's where humans will sit in the future.
Yeah, I've got a big prediction, and I'll share this because it's bold and people may disagree with me, but about, I would say, even less than 10 years ago, you would, if you ask kids what do you want to do when they're older, right, I think they would probably say YouTuber. They would say an influencer, and I think that started around 2015, 2016 when the buzz came off. When Twitch came off with gaming and everything like that. You don't hear, but if you to go 30, maybe even 60 years ago, and you ask maybe my dad or my granddad when they were still alive, my grandparents, you'd ask them what do they want to be, and I think the typical answers would have been, a plumber, a builder, a carpenter, a doctor. Yeah. When I grew up, it was definitely a policeman, a footballer, a fireman, or whatever, right? Yeah. So, and I will get to my point. Apologies, I've gone a long way around it, but in 10 years' time, right now we've got all of these, I would say, younger generation. They kind of scoff at professions of plumbers and bin men and carpenters, etc.
I think they've started to stop doing that now.
They've started to, and you've seen it. And I'll tell you why, because there's interesting reports coming out of America recently that some of the highest paid individuals coming out of the States are your plumbers, are your builders, are your carpenters, because they're becoming a very niche trade. Whereas before, you go into your yellow pages and go, right, I need a plumber. You start with an A, right? Everybody had to be A, and then AA, and then triple A, right? Because they all had to be at the top.
A plumbing.
Exactly, right. So
there's another trend as well, right, which I've noticed is a lot of people who have these skills like plumbers or car mechanics or whatever, gives them a lot of other practical skills. Frequently, a lot of these people can do other things. a lot of those people are giving up those jobs to go and live off grid, and they use their skills to just apply to living for themselves, because they think, why should I go through all this hard work dealing with all these muppets when I can just live on my own, and I've got the skills to do it, because you know, I can fix cars, I can certainly run a homestead.
And when you're off grid as well, you've really got to weigh up is how much money do I actually need to live. That's the grand scheme of things. Everybody needs money, but reality is if you get yourself self-sufficient and you probably have a community, then you'll be all right. And this will then lead on to the point of the very sensitive topic, and I won't go into too much detail in terms of migration, right? And people go, you know, we don't want migration, we don't want migration. It's not about wanting it, it's about needing it. There's a need for migration, a need for skilled workers, especially in the Western countries where the fertility rate is going down. And when it goes down, and then you've got these kids who all want to work for Google, they all want to work for Microsoft, they all want to work for Apple. So where do all the skilled workers come from? And that comes from, and you see it in Romania right now, you know, people, and I like to think Romania is a very welcoming country, but I do hear some unfortunate stories of racism. But you see the Nepalese people, the Indian people, Sri Lankan people, you can see them coming in, not in masses what you see in the Western country, but that's because it's not a want, it's a need. We need this force, right? We need this skilled force to come in here and build our houses, you know, maintain our roads, take our bins, because unfortunately we've got ourselves into a situation where the fertility is down and people don't want to do those jobs. So that's the only way to keep that in terms of cost effective. Otherwise, the really good ones, as in you want to get yourself a Romanian builder, you want to get yourself an English builder, they're the ones that are going to be the highest earning people in the next 10 years' time.
I think as well, like in Romania, I think there's almost a reverse migration happening as well, where the Romanians that have left here in the early 90s gone over to Western Europe, and now they're coming back. So they could actually be bringing their skills back here.
Lots of Romanians are coming back here. Lots.
Year on year, the figures have been going up. I've fortunate to speak to some people in the government. You can see that year on year. I think when I moved, I don't know, 4 years ago now, it was 17, 18 million Romanians here. I don't know what the unofficial number is. It's probably slightly higher in terms of sort of lower deprived areas, but and that was declining. Actually, in the recent times, in the last 18 months, they've seen an increase of influx of Romanians returning, and that's because they've made their money in the Western world, and congratulations on them, especially the good people, and they've kind of started sussing out the Western world as much as we have, right, in certain ways, and they've realised that Romania is a very safe country, very, very safe, and people don't understand that in the Western world. I can walk in the middle of the Bucharest at night with my noise cancellation phones on, no problem. I think the worst you're going to get is a beggar. I mean, there's crime everywhere, but you stick to the areas that you know, but it's typically not that bad. My kids, we live in a small town, the neighbours all know them, you know. The biggest problem they've got is the road safety, but otherwise it's, it's very safe.
Sorry to interrupt, that's one of the things, like, because obviously I moved over here in March last year. One of the things that really endeared me in living in a small village was seeing kids outside playing again. Which from where I was in the UK, you never really saw kids, and that added, that was just really nice to see, and that's something that when I eventually have kids in the future, that's what I want them to experience.
Yeah, I think it goes back to that dystopian world with the UK, and it's happening in Bucharest. Let's not kid ourselves. Bucharest is not undeveloped anymore. It's very developed, and kids are very Western there. You know, when you see Starbucks and the Apple shops everywhere there. But when you get into the rural towns, and it's one of the reasons we moved over. Right, what's important to us? Right, tech is never going to leave. It's here to stay. Right, but there's time for our kids to have tech. Right. And we've moved into a small town, which is built up more than where we are today. And then the reason that we picked and acquired this land is because it's so rural. And our kids love being outdoors; they love playing. We restrict, technology, especially to our 1-year-old doesn't see it anyway. As much as she wants to get the phone because she sees mummy and daddy on the phone, that's normal. Our 3-year-old is limited to at least 30 minutes a day on the television. Otherwise, it's outside. It's reading books. Tech will come, it will be part of his life, and he'll be far more savvy and advanced than I ever will be,
Yeah.
But the main important thing, and I do believe this, is, apart from obviously what I said about skilled workers, if you have emotional intelligence, and what I mean by that is a lot of kids these days, and you've been seeing, they're not as developed in terms of their social skills, and that's the biggest, I would say, negative in terms of tech. So if you're able to build up emotional intelligence inside of your children, when they get older, they're going to have tech anyway around them. That will elevate them from the ones who will be maybe stuck and not there, because you'll be able to network. You'll be able to have this conversation freely that we're having today. You'll be able to, at the right time, know when to get angry, sad, emotional, to your strengths. And I see that in younger children today, that is a lot different than what it used to be. So,
no, I completely agree with that, because I remember, when I was working for my previous company, I was involved in like the graduate program and recruiting and interviewing graduates, and the industry that I was in was very much focused on academic prowess. We want the cleverest people from red brick universities, to go inside to be scientists, etc., etc. And when I started to get involved in it, the thing that I brought was, well, a lot of stuff you can teach. You can teach skills, you can teach knowledge. It's the human characteristics of what the person is like. Would you put this person in front of a customer?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. You can't teach that. That sort of comes from home, and that's part of an upbringing. You can encourage it and you can nurture it, but that's the real value. Whereas, he doesn't know C++, or you can teach that. It's the person that you're employing rather than the skills.
It's a huge problem finding people who can do the most basic interpersonal interaction now.
Yeah,
I
agree.
I can't
and
find
trustworthy, reliable.
I can't find people to pick the phone up to people.
Yeah.
They won't do it. That's crazy.
I mean, I had the other day, and I won't name who they are because they're very close and work with me, but it's they came and they said, have you got an update for this? And I said, what's this? And they said, well, we've emailed you. And I was like, okay.
Do you know how many emails I
get? It's not just that. It's not just how many emails I get. It's how many emails that are spamming me saying, offer this, offer that, I'm like, emails for me are at the very most critical point in signing the deal. You've got all of the recording, etc.
Exactly that,
you've got some great communication tools these days. You've got Discord, you've got Google. We personally, we use Google again just because it's easier for us. But you've got Teams, you've got Slacks, which is great for instant. But isn't there no better way than just picking up the phone and saying, "Can you help me?" Just having a chat. Can you help? What do you need? And I was very fortunate in the background that I've got. I had a big family. My wife had a big family. We were very social. It was very much, you need help, you pick up the phone. That was always drained into me as a kid. You need help, pick up the phone.
Yeah.
And I think that when I went into my working career, it was the same. If you need help, pick up the phone.
Yeah.
And younger people that I work with, oh my God, it's like terrible to pick up the phone to them. They're like, what you calling me for? It's I know a lot of people do voice notes today.
Yeah, I think voice notes and video notes. I mean, for me as well, I almost found myself slipping into that, because I think working during COVID in a corporate environment gave me a real PTSD of like Zooms and all that kind of stuff, and constantly on my phone. And sort of I got to the point where I was like rejecting the technology, because I just wanted to, expunge all that. And I mean, Ed, we've had conversations, haven't we? You go, why don't you answer your phone?
No comment.
It's like, sometimes I just put my phone in the corner and just leave me alone, So there is like it's two sides of different stories, isn't it?
Anyway, very good interview. I think we've got plenty
great.
there.
Perfect.
And, that's 28 minutes. So
28 minutes? Wow. I talk a lot, I apologise.
Very good, very nice.
Very good,
Cheers.
Appreciate it.